I'll give it a second because I think sometimes when I do these recordings, it gets cut off to start with. But anywho, I'm going to be hopefully getting stuck into a few horses this weekend. So I'm going to stick a video out probably Thursday as sort of a weekend preview of ones that I might be getting a few quid on. Need to see what weather's doing over the next couple of days, but it looks like there's a bit of rain around, but should be quite nice ground. I reckon there's potentially a few decent opportunities. I have published out the second column for GG about my anti-post insights. I talk a bit about stuff that happened last week, review the selections, Monmoral and Blue Lord, talk about some other horses that ran, and then do look a bit towards the weekend. Give you a few pointers in there. So what I'm trying to also stick in there is, of the races that are coming up, which ones are actually useful towards Cheltenham Festival historically, because I know things will change, i.e. trainers will target certain types of races, then that pattern may change. They may have more than one race for a type of horse that they might target, whether it's maiden hurdles or beginner chases or any of those sorts of things. So just trying to give a little bit of substance to what's going on in the most recent years, which races are worth looking at. And that doesn't mean that any horse could run in a race, put in a decent performance, and then just isn't worth it. But sometimes we, I don't know, maybe lose focus with recency bias or just seeing something visually impressive and maybe upgrade what the race was before then. So I haven't done it yet. I'll pop a link in the description. If not, go over to Twitter and find out the link for the gg.co.uk tip thing. I'd appreciate your link clicks on there because it's all a numbers-based thing, isn't it? And I won't talk too much. I mean, I'll talk about some of it, but I won't talk too much about the review stuff, because it's in there for reading, and what's happened has happened. We're going to look forward to some stuff that's going on. So we are Tuesday here at the moment, and then when we're coming into the racing, we know how it starts to go. Thursday overnight, and there's normally some half decent stuff. There's a beginner's chase where Gaillard de Mesnil was entered, but he's not running. Again, not always talking for Cheltenham Focus. Potentially there could be some Betty type horses that come up in there. But Irascible was a horse last year that I had sort of on the back burner as maybe a Martin Pipey typey horsey. I don't know, just thought he'd go and run somewhere. And I always thought he was probably better than he has really shown. He now goes chasing, 7-year-old turning 8. I'll be very interested to see how he could jump a fence, because I do still think there is a lot of potential within this horse. Again, it wouldn't be looking from a grader perspective. It would potentially be something down the line in terms of a handicap, because he will be able to get in off of that hurdly mark over there. But that's about as exciting as I'm going to get for that beginner's chase and the opener at Thurles on Thursday. There's a couple of maiden hurdles after. There's like a mare's maiden hurdle, but again, there's nothing really in there that gets me too excited. So really, we'll just get ourselves stuck into Friday, Saturday stuff. I mean, there is a bit on Sunday as well, but mostly it's the Friday, Saturday. Mostly as well, I keep saying mostly about 85 times, Newbury's going to be the one for sort of a main focus. Decent racing that's going on there, especially on the Friday. Now, we're going in that first race that we've got, Jet Powered, the £350,000 point-to-point purchase for the Donnellys, Henderson. And yes, Nicky Henderson has run Supreme Winners at Newbury. Shishkin went there and fell, didn't he? But this particular race, and again, this isn't to say this is a fact, has been won by the likes of a John Bon. It's been won by Son of Camas, Jenkins, Bouverdare for him. All of those horses did not end up being a Supreme winner. So, as it stands at the moment, he's second in the bet for the Supreme. I can understand why people would want to get him on their slips. Facile Vega's entered a maiden hurdle, which has been used for like Ballymore type horses after. So obviously, if he was to not run in the Supreme, Jet Powered already contract in price anyway. Should Jet Powered run in this and go well, then of course his price is going to contract. I'd want to wait and see more than anything about him. Sure, the point-to-point was decent, wasn't it? But we're going to need to see the substance when it actually comes to the race course, and we'll see what goes on. So yes, one to get excited about. There are potentially some other horses in there that could be equally exciting as well. So we'll just have to see how that one goes. But very interesting race. I'm personally not getting massively excited about Jet Powered just yet, but I'm hoping that there is some depth in the race and that a few of them do go. It looks like there are going to be quite a few horses in there. So I think there'll be substance to the race. I would still expect a horse that's potentially going to be a Supreme horse to be battering horses that have got some depth in there, but we'll have to find that out later down the line, won't we? There's a novices handicap chase, which I normally quite like at the Newbury 2-day meeting, just for the fact that I think there's some horses in there that are sort of exposed over hurdles, but you know that a fence is going to be a making for them. Not 100% sure who I would see in the entries that are already in now as the horse that would potentially fit that bill. Soaring Glory does potentially running here, and he hasn't had a start over fences yet. He is 147 rated already though, so hard to see that he's going to be half a stone or whatever better for the sake of going over fences. Guard Your Dreams, on the other hand, is another horse that I still think there could be more to come from him. 145 was his rating, and again, is he really going to have that much more in hand going over fences? So it's probably one of those that I'll probably keep my powder dry in there. We'll see if anything sort of tickles my fancy nearer the time, but I will put a video up for that. There's another novices hurdle in there. Shearer's fairly short price favourite in that. That's over the middle trip. It would be one to watch more than anything for me. Man at Work was one I talked about when he ran at Aintree. Didn't back in, was a big price, 15-2. Really, really impressive run that as well. Was like sort of not aggressively ridden, but was made a bit of use of, I think, maybe earlier than it should have been. Like pushed along for a little way out, then maybe sooner, sooner than you would have wanted from the horse, but did things nicely. And he was sort of friendless in the market, considering he was in that point to point with Barry the Butcher, and he was falling and he was in with contention. So I think he looks like a nice horse. Again, there's a bit of substance there. If we see Man at Work and we see Shearer go against each other, we've got something in there. I don't think Shearer is as much of a worldie as he potentially looked after that win at Cheltenham. He's 139 rated. We'll just have to see how good he could be. Then we get on to the graded stuff. You know I'm a snob. I love all of this. The Berkshire. It is a novice's chase that historically tends to lend itself to a 3-mile chaser. And I know in recent years you've had the likes of Nastalan winning that, who was very fortunate to go and do it. But I think it's maybe been forgotten a little bit that in the past we've had Denman, Bobsworth, Clanders, Oboe win this, Champs won it, Coney Grease won it. Like, these are staying chasers, despite the fact it's over 2.5. So with that in mind, not with all of them, but lots of them were having like a first start over fences at an early point because it's sort of a stepping stone to move up. Look at the horses that are in here. Stage Star is probably the better one that's in here. Guard Your Dreams is in that novice handicap, could run in this, and I would imagine if you were connections, you'd probably rather run in this than in the handicap. But by the by, Stage Star is the most likely winner of this race. He gets away with like a winner's penalty because of the class of race that he's won before. But I was pretty impressed with his chase debut. And I know people will say that West Cork didn't really frank the form with what he did behind John Bon and Monroe. Irrelevant whether he did or he didn't. But Stage Star, after the fact that it didn't look like he was going to go and win by a wide margin, but at the end of it, pelted clear, I was very impressed with Stage Star's chase debut. Now, he has got a little bit of back form with the hurdling because of the fact he has won Grade 1 Challow Hurdle at this race course, so makes sense for him to go here. I hadn't thought about him potentially being a 3-mile chaser, and I don't know whether he would be or not, but he's interesting for the fact that I suspect he will go and win this race. He is 4-6, I think, at the time of recording this. It's not really saying anything you wouldn't know. But he could end up being like a Feltham or a Kauto Star novices chase type horse, couldn't he? And then potentially off the back of that, you could go and step up for RSAE. So I hadn't even thought about him on the radar as that type of horse. But that's the way that I'm sort of looking at the race. Excited to watch him, with you. Maybe wouldn't bet. Stage Star will win, I think. There is maybe a muggy double that I might suggest for the time being now. There's handicap chase that we don't know who's going to run in next. There's a few that are doubly entered, but that'll be interesting anyway. But then we have got the long distance hurdle. And in the column, and I did talk about it on the last video, that I think Prashima's being underappreciated in the stayers hurdle market. Yes, I know he's probably more ground dependent than some horses. Let's just imagine, we're into November now. Let's just imagine they're talking about this water table and the ground underneath. There's not been enough wet. Imagine it does just stay like that as we carry on through the season and we get to Cheltenham. It's just a typical spring ground festival. I don't think Good to Soft's a bother to him. He is 7, so he's 7 going 8, which potentially could be a little bit old, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it is. And I genuinely think he's been really underappreciated. In the race of this nature as well, Dashwood Drasher and T-Clipper are the two that he's got to give weight away to. Dashwood Drasher was just lucky to go and win the race at Aintree. He's not a decent hurdler. T-Clipper, I don't think, has got a chance. Paisley's gone. Champ's gone. He's too old now. And Thomas Darby will need it soft. And I can't see it happening. So I think Prashima's going to win. This is where I was saying if you want to do the muggy double, I think Stage Star Prashima pays about 4-1. Don't think that's a bad little double just for the sake of an interest. But I fully expect Prashima to win this. I think even after he does it, people will knock the race and he'll still be underappreciated. Then I expect the long walk hurdle or Cleve hurdle will be the next stepping stone for him. And should he go and do something there, much like a Thistlecrack did, or even when, you know what I mean, Harry sort of sprung onto the scene, they were underappreciated to begin with. I just think he's a bit of a price at top price 25-1. So I've had a nibble. I do expect him to win at the weekend, and he should. I think he'll win quite well, to be honest with you. There's more handicap hurdles after this one as well. Did they leave you out too? Wind up the last day, wasn't it? After he ran at Chepstow, looked like he was an eye catcher. Then he was well backed at Newbury, but he was pretty pants, to be honest with you. And although he was well backed into favourite, I looked at the Betfair market because I had a few quid on him, and he just sort of flopped about. He never looked like he was travelling that day. So I'd, for my sins, possibly be looking at putting a line through that. Another horse that's stupidly interesting is Scandyberg. I talked about him running at Cheltenham in the October meeting a while back when he was 5th behind Dolphin Square. It was at this meeting in a Class 2 handicap hurdle, which is the one that he's potentially entered in here. That was off a £12 higher mark. I know it's very punty, but he's another one that I don't know. I just feel like I'm stuck with him for a little bit. So potentially some exciting stuff on Friday that could be quite good. I'm going to quickly have a look, see if I can see some of the comments, because I know some questions have been chucked in, not that many, and then we'll move on to Saturday, see if I can answer them off, or if there's anything I could do in between. Has Lost in Translation got a £10 claim over then? He's got Freddie on, and Freddie Gingle. Is he taking 7 off, maybe? I'll check that on the Saturday. How far does the Codfather win the Cold Trophy by? All of the length, Scotty. We're going to go on to that now. So let's get on with Saturday. Over at Gowran, there is, again, some okay race, and obviously we've got potential Facile Vega into that maiden hurdle. I won't dwell too much on those. As I say, it's in the write-up if you want to see thoughts on there. Should we do Newbury first rather than Newcastle? Let's do Newbury first. Just stick with all the big boy stuff. With Newbury, right? Mayor's Novice Hurdle, we talked about this one with her going in a bumper. I think it was more so when I was on the preview with the Cheltenham Exchange boys and talking to Scotty. We were talking about Lucia will go for this race, wasn't in the bumper. I'd expect her to be very well supported in this race. I don't know if there is much depth in there, to be honest with you, but we'll see. We'll just see how what sort of price she'll be. But I think she'll be very, very popular. So whether she's a bet, if you can get on early and then she'll short one, I don't know. But I'm not too worried about checking a price or being alerted to a price and getting to a betting shop to get some money on. I don't really trust the mares too much. We've got the John Frankham Novices Chase, the Grade 2. This is the 3 mile one. So again, I talked about the previous one, the Berkshire, being more of a sort of decent stayers race. There have been some good boats that have won this race, to be honest with you. I think in the past we've heard, and I say I think, I've got them in front of me, Native River, Thistlecrack, Elegant Escape, Santini, Ahoy Senior. I know Next Destination won it as well, didn't he? There's been some good winners of the race, but none of those have gone and won at Cheltenham. Now, Thistlecrack was favourite for a Gold Cup. Admittedly, he didn't run, but I think we just look what we're going to have here is we're going to have a very good horse, but probably not going to make it as festival sort of type. I reckon that could be the case for Time Hill, because I think Time Hill should go in the not quite 4 miler, because I think he is a bit of a plodder, but they've got this class element about him, haven't they? I'm sure Dickie Johnson was going to retire if he'd have won that race at Ascot when Paisley Park just got him. That's why he was so animated. I think he'd be better in the 4 miler. So potentially within the lines that I've said there, he could go and win this, still look like he's too good to go in a 4 miler, and they stick him in the Brown Advisory. But been an interesting race. Gelino Bello in there getting the £3 from him, despite unofficial ratings having a bit to find, was pretty good on his chase debut. Again, looked a bit slow to me, so that would probably lend itself to this type of racing horse. It is going to be fairly quick ground, so we'll just have to see how it goes in terms of those plodder stayers. I'd love to see Mr. Coffee in here as well, to be honest with you. On figures, he shouldn't have a chance, should he? But they got other entries with him as well. But I'm interested in that, definitely interested in that race for watching it. I think Time Hill's a boat, and I want to see him in the National Hunt Chase. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. And I wouldn't be looking to bet in that race either. If I was going to have a bet, I would make Time Hill short, to be honest with you. I think he is the best horse, and I think he should win. Was a bit dodgy over hurdles at times, and I know Newbury fences can catch a horse out or so, but we'll see. We'll see what goes on with that race, but it's not going to be one for punting, I don't think, but we can always get lured in, can't we, if they value the prices around. The Peter Sullivan Memorial Handicap Chase. I know Cap Course is always sort of prepared and they try and go for it in there. It's not going to be a race I'm probably going to have a bet in, to be honest with you, unless Mr. Coffee goes in it. I'm backing Mr. Coffee if he's in the handicap. That's faux show. There's another handicap hurdle after that. So another one, it's a handicap hurdle. Walking on Air for Nicky Henderson will be very interesting. Obviously, all the hype about this horse potentially being an absolute worldie could make into a stayers hurdle type horse, possibly, because they talked about stamina being him. 2.5 mile, 132 rated. He would obviously be of interest should he turn up. Then we've got the Jerry Fielden. In the Jerry Fielden, First Street, I'm pretty sure will definitely run. This Giello for Venetia Williams that won the other day, was impressive. And the way that the penalty system is going to work, he's been raised, I think, £7 anyway. He gets £6 penalty for this, so he's £1 well in because of that. And I was looking at First Street's weight to see if he's going to be out the handicap, but he's not. He sits bang on the 10 stone 2. I feel like he's getting in without the penalty, essentially. I'm struggling. I haven't done the race properly, but I'm struggling to see how he's not a lump bet if he's odds against once he's been selected, or once he's been declared. So he potentially could be a lump job, if I'm being honest. And again, I know there's only so much. We've got to bet responsibly, all those sort of things. But he's 7-4 now. If he was declared and I could get 6-4 in a shop, I would be going and having a good chunk on him. But I will keep you posted on that. The Hennessy, the Coral Gold Cup, I have got involved. I mentioned this loosely in a video a while back that I fancied Oscar Elite at 33s. Still fancy Oscar Elite, although he's not 33s. Also, I backed Karat Rambler because we had him at Cheltenham, and I sort of knew that he was priced going to shorten and I'd like a little bit of cover. So sometimes I'd get in a few races in here, get involved in a few horses, but this year I've not done so many. I've just done Karat Rambler and Oscar Elite, and Sam would absolutely wind me up because I swear they've been plotting for a race. He did win on his penultimate start. I wasn't heavily involved. I wasn't even involved in the slightest with review. It's a pretty crappy race, handicap hurdle. But I think over fences there is something to be won within him. So I'll probably have a little bit of a saver on him. So yeah, Freddie Gingle does ride Lost in Translation. It's £7 that he'll be taken off. Looks pretty good race. I think it looks competitive more than anything. I just don't have a real strong fancy or anything. I don't think 300-3.5 is any good, Scotty. I don't think he's anywhere near 151 rated horse personally. And obviously you've got to go and win, ain't you? And then, I mean, that puts him £4 or £5 off of a gold gut horse. That ain't happening, is it? So we'll have to see. My opinion in this is very much Oscar Elite driven because I really fancy him. Probably be wrong, but we'll see how we go. That's most of the Newbury done on Saturday. Right, before I do Newcastle then, I know fucking Jamie's on. Go on then, Jamie. Can we all just, if you're sat at home, I don't care if people are listening, let's give Jamie a nice round of applause because he was absolutely smashing it for the November meeting. So well done, Jamie. Yes, I know I said this about I like to move it, but I like to move it isn't going to win a champion hurdle, is he? And yeah, okay, I get your point, but no, it's not going to happen. Right, let's have a look. Skim down. I haven't got my glasses on, so we're struggling here. Lol Saltini, get out of it. Yes, I finally lost it. Go on the coffee. Anyone see how keen Rob Akerson was on Gentleman's Game for the RSA? I mean, yeah, maybe. Said Manella Caruna National Hunt Chase. You still reckon? I don't. Yeah, see, I watched Manella Caruna's race a couple of times. There was loads of fences that were taken out. Again, it's in the article the way I've talked about it. I wouldn't say it was a lost cause in there. He had an injury, didn't he, before he ran at Punchestown? So that was a run after a setback, which clearly wasn't him. This is his first run in a little while, and he's gone into a Grade 2. He's only just been beaten. Looked completely and utterly boaty, so I reckon he's still got a squeak in there. We'll see what happens. See how he comes up the race, because obviously he has had an injury, and we'll see where they go for the next races. But he's 25, isn't he? Or maybe 20s generally. I wouldn't say he's a lost cause, to be honest with you. Yes, I am obsessed with the National Hunt Chase. I want it back ever since I backed Buddy Bolero after he won at Leicester and he came fourth, I think, and I'd had a good bet on him. I want to get it. I want to get a big one. Frontless sort of win the National Hunt Chase anyway. No, don't like him. Lucinda's horses are good, and yes, Alex, he is a good, and he's going to shit home on Saturday. Honestly, odds against, I'm going to have a good pile on that. Jamie, right, it's literally just you three talking about yourselves, so that's great. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to quickly go on to Newcastle. French Furs, this was a race last year where I had a very good bet on Marble Sands. To no avail, he got beat, didn't he? He runs again because he is, was a novice, was poor last season, just loads of seconds. I blame Lily Pinchin in the race last year, if I'm honest with you. Mr. Glass was in the race, a half decent-ish, potentially looking horse, but yeah, now Paddy Brennan's on him, moved to Virgil. I think the horse has got serious chances in this. Obviously, Mufasa's in there, which is, or Mofasa, semi-annoying because there's potentially one that he's going to bump into in there, and that's potentially the horse he's going to bump into. But I'm happy to take that on. So Marble Sands will be a bet. I don't think we're going to get a price about him, though, so we'll have to see. But I'll have a go, and again, I'll put it in the video to tell you whether I am genuinely getting stuck into that. But Marble Sands, like him, I think he'll win that. I want to see the final declarations for this novices handicap chase. I talk about this in the previous race at Newbury, didn't I, saying that I like these races? That'll be one I'll look at the end of it. I'm not going to give any insight to which ones I like now because there's three and I want to know where they're going first. Then the fight in fifth, right? Looking at the field, Constitution Hill's not going to run, that's a fact. Tommy's Oscar, they're going to run him. I mean, it's like nice to have a horse to go and do bits with in it, but I can't have him. Voiderev's going to run, made the pace last year. Just he is a million. He's got no chance in it. Pied Piper could run, and I know Gordon hasn't said that he will, but I like Pied Piper, and if he came in and it changes the race for me completely, I think he would potentially, I know it's mad, but I think he could go close to winning this. Not So Sleepy, it just isn't good enough, fluked it last year. Now, Epperton, the ground was worse last year than the going description would have read. I think we know, like Darryl made a really good point about this, that somewhere like Punchestown, where she was bad and beaten, that when she's got a quick and around a bend, she's not as good as when she's got a long run in on there. And she'll get away with it here at Newcastle. But I also think as well, like last year, she didn't put the race to bed, did she? She did just dead heat. Now, you could say that she wasn't at her best that day. I wonder from a pace element, when she won this fight in fifth before from So Royal, Silver Streak fell in that, didn't he? And then had to set the fractions on So Royal, and then Epperton just picked up the pieces. It was easy. It was a good pace to aim at. When she got turned over at 1-5 at Kempton, I know they'll say there was an injury, there's a back issue, that sort of stuff. But again, I think she just got run ragged. And I wonder whether that could happen in here. But again, it depends on who's in the race and what happens, because there could be a pace collapse. There could be nothing in there. We'll have to just see. But she's better over 2.5. She's a short price for this race. She's already short enough-ish for the mare's hurdle, given the fact that I don't think we learned anything in here apart from something negative. So hopefully she, I mean, not say it's bad to say hope she gets beat, but let her get beat, and then her future's at 2.5. Might drift out in the mare's hurdle market, and then we could have another little look at her in that. That's probably enough for it. The rehearsal's a decent race. I hope and pray that L'Homme Presse runs. We'll have to see about that one. So again, I will talk about that when it comes to final declarations and potential bets that are going in there. But yeah, I'll leave it as that. I've talked for plenty. It's 20 odd minutes. You guys have got better things to do in your evening than listening to this stuff. So please do go onto Twitter and click that GG1 if you haven't already. Drop some comments below if there's anything you fancy after watching this, and I will be talking to you again at the weekend with my selections. I'm away for the weekend, so I'll be quiet on Twitter after that, which you'll be pleased to hear about. But again, thank you for your support. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Enjoy your evenings, and it's coming home.